Hello, everybody, and welcome to our interview this week. Today, we have a special guest from BidX. It's Hiba, the co-founder and CEO of SellerMobile. SellerMobile is an order management software for sellers which helps with analytics, automation, and inventory management. Welcome, Hiba.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Would you like to introduce yourself and show us some more insights about what SellerMobile is actually doing?
Definitely. So today we're talking about inventory management, which is very exciting topic for me. But to give me some credibility, let's talk about who I am and how I got into e-commerce, into Amazon, into inventory management, and all the wonderful things we're going to talk about today. So I co-founded a brand called Cool Glow about 15 years ago. And it took us about 10 years to go from zero revenue, absolutely no orders, no company, to 20 million annual revenue. And what was so exciting was after we exited that business in 2019, we sort of had a chance to take a deep breath and see things from an outside perspective. So when you're in the thick of anything, it's really hard to kind of see clarity and kind of what were the things that helped us succeed, and what were the pitfalls, and what were the challenges that we faced along the way. So in retrospect, I can look back and say, really narrow down what is it that allowed us to gain the success that we did over that time period. And the three things that I'm able to distill it down to are accurate real-time reports. So really understanding your numbers, really taking the time to look at the numbers. The next is really strategic inventory management. So strategy and inventory management, they're kind of two different things. We use strategy for a lot of different areas of our business, but we specifically did it for inventory management. And that's a bulk of what I'm going to talk about today, is what kind of strategy we used when it came to our inventory planning. And then the last piece is Amazon automation. There's a lot of pieces of automation, like automating our feedback, really creating workflows for certain processes that feel like they're automated. So the work is constantly being done in a very strategic and thoughtful manner. So let's kind of go into some big jarring numbers that I want people to relate to. This one really kind of really surprised me, but then honestly really didn't surprise me, which is Business Insider, I found, said that 82% of companies fail because of cash flow problems. So that's huge if you think about it. So, and this really applies to businesses in general. But when you bring it back home to Amazon, or you bring it back home to your e-commerce business, 70% of our cash is tied up in inventory. So if businesses are failing because of cash flow problems, and specifically for e-commerce, where we're not spending a crap ton of money on people and kind of other pieces that require a lot of capital, it's inventory. So managing that inventory well can make or break your business. And so those are the things that I really love talking about, and I really want Amazon sellers, e-commerce businesses to kind of understand. And then I will, Tim, get excited and start talking really fast. And you're going to say, Hiba, slow down. Repeat that again. Say it differently. Please interrupt. Please ask questions. Think of it from like an audience perspective. If you are an Amazon seller, or an Amazon seller had that question, please interrupt and ask.
Sure, I will.
Yeah, awesome. So let's talk about inventory planning. So the concept of inventory planning is really straightforward. You are not waking up on a random day looking at your current FBA stock and saying, oh, I should order some more, right? So the idea is very clear. The idea is that inventory planning needs to be a strategic part of your business, something that you have processes around. So why do you need to have processes around this inventory planning piece? So some of this is so clear, but you'd be surprised at how many people I talk to that are doing really well are not necessarily applying this to themselves to scale their business to the next level. So the obvious is you want to reduce out of stock. Out of stock equals lost revenue equals stagnated growth. So you definitely want to make sure that you are never running out of stock. However, overstock is sort of the other end of that sword. So you don't want to be overstocked either, because like we talked about earlier, if 82% of businesses are going out of business because of cash flow problems and all your cash is stuck in inventory and you're overstocked, well, there you go. So striking that balance between reducing stockouts and overstocking is so important. And it's easier said than done. Believe me, we've been there. We had ordered pallets and pallets of stuff that just sat there, and we were like, that's our money just sitting in our warehouse collecting dust. So we have definitely learned from our mistakes, and we definitely were able to rectify those mistakes to get to that successful exit that we had in 2019. So rotating stock fast, that is really important. The way your stock cycles, not only for your e-commerce business in general, but specifically for Amazon, is very, very important. Amazon very closely looks at your turnaround rate for that stock. And so it's really important to make sure that it's continually cycling. Obviously, you want to make sure that you increase cash flow. You buy stuff, you sell stuff for a profit, you get that cash back so you can pump it back into more inventory and really keep that cycle going. A big piece is reducing guesswork. So when you're effectively planning your inventory out, you're reducing a lot of guesswork. You're not wondering, hey, should I order this much or this much? Like, I don't really know what I should be doing. And another big piece is preventing delays. So that's always been an issue, but this very much got a lot of light shown on it during the pandemic, and it has continued to be an issue. Preventing those delays can make or break your business. So if you are planning your inventory ahead of time and making sure that you're giving yourself enough leeway to get it from your supplier or your manufacturer into your warehouse or into Amazon FBA, you can make a really big difference. Because if you're just sitting out of stock in Amazon, that has bigger implications than just not making money, because it's hard to rank again for those keywords. It's hard to then compete against competitors who have taken over that space. You have to pump a lot more money into advertising. You have to really just change a lot of pieces of your business if you are just sitting out of inventory for a really long time because of delays because of whatever reason.
Mhm.
So those are kind of key pieces. Are you good, Tim? We're doing okay?
Yeah, let me just ask a quick question.
Sure.
I don't know if you talked about that later, but when would you say would it make sense for a seller, like in terms of revenue, when would a tool make sense to don't have these problems?
That's a very good question. When you can no longer do it in your head. So if you can do it in your
Okay.
head, like you don't need Excel for it. You know exactly how much inventory you have in your head, and you know exactly like when you need to reorder, and you know like your suppliers, and you know if all of this information's in your head, you probably don't need it. That probably means you're just starting off, you've got a handful of SKUs, you aren't necessarily ready for that level of scalability. So the thing is, anytime you start a business, you do very unscalable things, right? You got to do a lot of things manually to learn from them. So whatever I'm talking about here, it's really important. This is not just, it has nothing to do with SellerMobile, it has nothing to do with softwares. What it really has to do with is how you look at your business and how you plan for one of the most important pieces of your business, which is the inventory side. But when you start to scale, when you want to become more efficient, when you want to add team members and then have this kind of organized way of doing your workflows, that's when you want to add a software. That's when the cost of that software makes sense, because at the end of the day, it's going to help you save money because you are not stocking out. So when you can justify, and for our customers, it's very easy for them to justify, because we show them this was your lost revenue because of out of stock for the last 30 days. I can almost guarantee you that when this software is going to cost significantly less than when you make up for that lost revenue going forward because you're stocking appropriately. So at that time, it's not a question of should I, it's a question of like, when do I start? Because
Exactly.
I can automatically guarantee you that you are going to make that, investment worth it for yourself and for your.
Okay. Okay.
So this is the process. So SellerMobile does this, in its sort of unique way that really makes it easy for sellers. But these are the things that all sellers need to be looking at with or without a software. With a software, it's easier, but without a software, it still needs to be done. So the first thing is really tracking your historic sales, really understanding what you've sold and how that's going. So what SellerMobile does is we take 2 years worth of your historic sales data from Amazon, and we will forecast sales for you. If you are not using a tool that automatically forecasts your sales, your future sales for you, then you need to sit down and look at your historic sales and then create those forecasts yourself. So viewing your historic sales, looking at your forecast. When it comes to looking at your forecast, you need to make sure that you're looking at certain trends. You're looking at certain seasonality. You're looking at certain times of year. Certain things become fads all of a sudden, and then they like skyrocket. So you need to be looking at all of that. So you need to account for when you're doing forecasts. Was this just a fluke incident and people were just buying these, or is my business trending this way and this is now really something that is growing because I've gotten some of the market share, I've gotten some I've gotten kind of at the top of the page on Amazon and sort of other factors. So again, looking at historic sales, forecasting for the future. The next is really setting some budgets for yourself. So when it comes to either category, comes to products, you can't just willy-nilly go ahead and just like purchase a bunch of stuff. And the reason why I say that is because that is something that we did. So early on in our business, we had just said, oh, well, let's buy this. And we went to China and we're like, let's buy this and this and this and this, and we'll just buy everything because we'll sell it all. Well, it doesn't work that way. So we were stuck with a lot of dead inventory. And the lesson learned was you need to create budgets and you need to figure out your best selling products and you need to lean into those. So rather than taking the limited amount of capital, because at the end of the day, no matter how much capital you have, it's still limited. Taking the capital that you have and very strategically putting it towards things that are going to move fast and are going to give you that return on investment that will help you then grow other sides of your business. So figure out your best sellers first, invest in those, create budgets around it. One of the things that I've noticed that businesses don't necessarily do, especially when they start growing a little bit, is your supply and logistics or repurchasing team, are they talking to your accounting team? Like, are there two teams sitting together and saying like, this is what I want to purchase, can I afford to purchase this? And so that is a very strategic conversation that needs to happen. Another person that needs to be on that table when this conversation is happening is the marketing team. So marketing team needs to understand, if I'm going to be then putting this budget into this inventory, what am I going to do to make sure that this is moving in Amazon, right? So have I dedicated a budget also for my advertising for those products to make sure that I can then compete with other sellers that are selling this product or compete in that space? So the three really need to be talking together. So once you've got a budget, once you sort of, you figured out things, you figured out what you're going to put your money on, you've purchased those products. Obviously, you've created those purchase orders, you've created those FBA restock plans, your inventory is out there, and you're making sales. What you need to be doing is constantly, and this needs to be either a weekly thing, a bi-monthly thing, a monthly thing, is you're looking at your performance trends. You're understanding, how is my product doing? And then if it's not performing the way you had expected it to, or those goals that you had set, the KPIs that you had set for your business, then you need to go in and then you need to pull some levers. That means you need to look at your ad budget, you need to look at your promotions, you need to look at your competitors, you need to maybe readjust your pricing. There's a lot of different things you can do to make sure that you are pulling levers, which also includes reordering in time. So if you hadn't anticipated your sales going a lot higher because you did an amazing job with advertising and you just like these things are just flying off the shelf, you need to also track that to make sure that you are sending in enough inventory, transferring enough inventory into Amazon to make sure that you are really taking advantage of the tail end of all that advertising that you've done to make sure that you have really healthy, tacos, you have really healthy overall sales. And then it's really a matter of rinsing and repeating. So what I've mentioned here isn't like a one-time thing when you're launching your product. It is a weekly or monthly activity that you are doing on a constant basis. Once you adjust and you go back and you track your sales and then you readjust your forecast and you go ahead and set budgets again and you buy more stuff and then you send it in and then you review it and then you just keep going. So any questions about that? Does that sort of...
Not yet. It's quite clear.
Awesome. So that is really kind of the bulk of effective inventory planning.
Mm-hmm.
So conceptually, like that is what it is. Let's talk a little bit about who and how and where and when and all of that stuff. So when it comes to best practices, there's sort of three key pieces that any Amazon seller, and that could just be you're a solopreneur and you're doing this Amazon business yourself. That's great. You still need all these three things. And the first thing is people. So when it comes to people, it's really experience and expertise. You can't get expertise unless you have experience, and you can't get experience unless you try things out and let time teach you. So honestly, anyone can gain expertise in an area. It's just a matter of time, and it's just a matter of trying a lot of new things to figure out what works. So the people part is really important. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to and I'll come to the technology in a second. You can't just say, well, I'm going to let this technology do all the work. It sort of doesn't work like that. You still need to have that human component that goes in and double checks and makes sure that you're on the right track. The second piece, which I personally think is the most important piece, which is process. Really intelligent strategizing, really making sure that you're creating workflows, not just for your team, but even if it's just you're very strictly following certain pieces. One of the things that I'd read was, and I know I'm gonna like completely butcher this sort of quote, but I'll just conceptually talk about it, is doing an excellent job one time versus consistently doing well. Consistently doing well is far more effective and important than doing an excellent job one time. So you don't grow, you don't scale by doing just you can't have like this one awesome product that just like made you millions of dollars. Like that thing is going to fizzle out at some point. What's really going to let you rinse and repeat from one business to another business to another business is really coming up with that consistency and doing things with strategy and consistency. And so having a process allows you to be consistent and do things in a very effective manner. And then it makes it really easy to plug people in to that process, so then you can step out and really do more of the strategizing, as opposed to like sitting there every week and figuring out, what do I need to order? What do I need to order? The last piece, which I'll be really honest, one of the things about my e-commerce business that really allowed us to be successful was technology. We actually really leaned into it. So my co-founder and I really leaned into the technology, and we were in a space where there was a lot of competition, but like competition from legacy companies that had been in generations. It was the party supply, novelty toys and category. And these companies had been around for a really, really, really long time. And so when we came in to these young kids out of college that were like eager, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and just wanting to get into this space, they sort of laughed at us. They were like, oh, please. And then we started showing up and we were leaning into technology and doing things the way they were not. And really allowed us to scale our business, and then we caught their attention. That technology can be such an important piece, even if you've been doing this for a really long time and you're really successful. Sometimes spreadsheets can, though, feel comforting because you know them and you created them and you worked with them for a really long time, can actually be a detriment in allowing you not to see your business from a just different perspective and not have that positive feedback loop that you're looking for that's going to give you information back. So those are kind of the 3 keys that I see in terms of best practices. So speaking of technology, SellerMobile does a lot of what I talked about today. SellerMobile is actually was birthed out of our own e-commerce business. Like I said, we leaned into the technology. And so when we exited that business, we held on to SellerMobile because we thought it was something special. And, we exited the brand and the inventory and all of the other things that went along with CoolFlow. So since then, like I said, we've had kind of an ability to step back a little bit and look at our business and look at what made us successful. We were really able to distill those learnings into the software. And so one of the things SellerMobile does is it gives you real-time data. It gives you reports on your ROI, on your advertising, on your essentially all the metrics that you need to be looking at to see if this product is successful or not successful. Sometimes in the haze of Amazon, it's hard to distill which are the 20% of products that are bringing you the 80% of revenue. So looking at that is really, really important, and not just once in a while, but ongoing and very strategically. The next piece is notifications. So our software tells you, based on your lead times, your supplier's lead times, exactly how and when and how much you need to reorder. Not how, I guess, how much and when. How is up to you. But exactly how much and when to reorder. So we actually allow you to create purchase orders for your suppliers from within the software. So I guess we do the how to. That way you really are not guessing of how much you need to order. You're really looking at it's a very data-driven approach. One of the things that we do in helping you identify what and how much to reorder is using demand forecast. So we have a very, very robust component of our software that tells you, we'll look at your outliers, we'll look at your inventory, we'll look at your historic sales for the last 2 years, we'll look at your most recent sales and really kind of do the math to tell you exactly what your forecasts are going to be. But there is an override component there too. Because if you are saying, hey, look, I understand that my sales were this much, but now you know what? I've hired BidX to come in and help me with my advertising. I expect BidX to do a phenomenal job. And based on that phenomenal job, I actually am anticipating that I'm going to be selling this many units instead of this many units. You can go into the system and override that. And when you override it, we'll give you your refreshed forecast. But I think the coolest piece of that is the deviation notification. So when you're looking at, you're saying, hey, I anticipate selling this much. This is my forecast. The software will look at your actuals, and then you can tell the software, you know what, anytime I'm in like the 20% plus or minus, don't worry about it. I expect not to be 100% accurate. But anytime my actuals deviate more or less 20% from my forecasted sales, send me an alert because I need to look into it. What's happening? Is advertising not performing the way I anticipated? am I selling way more than I anticipated? And do I need to create a new restock, FBA, a restock order? Do I need to look at my pricing? Do I have more competitors in the space than I did before? Those are the questions you can start asking yourself when you see that deviation. And then, like I said before, information is great, but we want to make it really simple for you. So you can create an entire restock plan in like less than 7 clicks. So you can create purchase orders from within the software for your suppliers. You can create work orders for your warehouse. You can create FBA restock plans. You can print out labels. You can send the label to your supplier so they can make copies of it, put it on the box, and send it into FBA. So really the idea is to streamline this process as much as possible.
Okay, cool. So did I understand it right? It's a quite similar approach that we have at BidX. The software could work completely on its own, but if you want to, you can adjust some certain KPIs or some certain settings that you think would work better if you do this than if the software do it.
Yeah, so what the software does is it gives you all the information you need. So you still need to go in there and create that purchase order. So the software is not automatically creating a purchase order and sending it to your supplier. What the software is doing is it's giving you the exact numbers you need to just check off. You need to make sure because that could be kind of dangerous if, we're like, here are all the things, and then goes to your supplier and you're like, wait, I don't have the money for this. Or imagine this is too little. So what it does is it gives you all the suggestions so you don't have to guess on what you should be reordering. But we make it super, super simple and streamlined so you don't have to sit there and get an Excel and do all of this stuff. Going to the software allows you to. So for example, on one screen, you look at your historic sales, your current sales, your forecasted sales, and your inventory levels. So having all of the most important numbers right there on one screen makes it really simple and straightforward. So you're not having to click here and go to this Excel and find this file and go to here. You're doing it all in one place. So that process, what would have taken you maybe, I don't know, like 3 hours to do, will probably now take you 30 minutes to do.
Okay. So it saves you a lot of time and makes it easier on top.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So so this is just a little bit about SellerMobile. No hard sell here, but we integrate with Amazon. We have 17 different marketplaces we integrate with. We integrate with Walmart as well. We have an amazing mobile app. It's really best in class. You can do amazing things on it. You can really run your business on it in some ways. We just recently launched our KPI module. So, I could go on and on, but I know that we have a cutoff. But KPIs are so important. Setting standards for yourself of what you want to accomplish is very, very important. And rather than kind of doing it sort of not consistently or finding a hard place to that's hard to keep track of, we built it into the software. And the best part is you don't have to go in and manually input data. So the KPI tool I use for SellerMobile, I have to every week manually go in and enter data to make sure that we are hitting all the numbers that we need to hit for our business. With SellerMobile, if your KPIs are around your Amazon business or your Walmart business, then you tell us what the target is, and then we will automatically tell you if you're hitting or missing your target. So streamlined, again, really helpful. And we've got alerts and notifications. I know most of your users are not resellers or doing arbitrage, but we also have a repricer. But really, the biggest piece is how inventory is managed and looked at is kind of what SellerMobile gives you.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. Any questions, sir?
Yeah. If I'm a seller and I think that the software and the tool would help me, how would the onboarding process actually looks like?
That is a great question. So, if you go to SellerMobile.com, you can just sign up for a 14-day free trial, no obligations.
Mhm,
When you go in, you just have to answer a few questions to help us understand what your needs are. Currently, we
mhm,
have three packages. There is analytics and automation. So that is your um, request for review for your products that the software will automatically send out those emails, and then of course I talked about the repricer, which may or may not be relevant depending on the kind of business you have. And then the third is the analytics, the automation, and then the inventory management. So you get to see your forecast, you get to see your what your historic sales have been. You get to see your inventory, you
mhm,
get to create purchase orders, FB restock plans, the whole gamut. So those are the three plans. You start a 14-day free trial. Once you start a free trial, someone from our team will reach out to do an onboarding to really help you understand how you can get the most out of the software. So if you've got 30 minutes, I really, really encourage that onboarding because that simplifies things. We'll show
mhm,
you, it's super simple. You can do it yourself, but we'll walk you through how to enter in your cost of goods so you really get more accurate margins for your business. So that's one of the things that sellers constantly sort of talk about is like when you're selling on Amazon, you don't always know your numbers because they're everywhere. Settlement reports are different than some of the other reports that you get on Amazon, and so it's all over. Advertising reports are separate. It's not all cohesively in one place. So all the costs and fees associated with selling on Amazon can sometimes be really confusing and hard to maneuver. So with something like SellerMobile, all of your costs and fees are in one place, really on one screen if you want them to be. So you can see at the end of the day, these are my most profitable products. These are my least profitable products. These are going from most profitable to least profitable. These are going from least profitable to most profitable. You can just keep all of it track and you keep
that's cool.
track of it all. Um, so very simple, sign up, encourages you to do onboarding. And then if you need any help, we've got the team here to answer questions. We've got a help section built in right within the software. So you can reach out, chat with us. And yeah, we
Cool.
try to make it as simple as we can.
Mhm. Yeah, that sounds great. Very cool. Okay.
And and then I don't want to leave without this part, unless you had another question.
It's just uh, if you could like say or give us a brief look into the future. Maybe there are some new features coming, or which difficulties sellers are facing in the future, in your opinion.
Yeah. So in terms of sellers, I think Amazon has changed a lot in the last couple of
Mhm,
years. It's certainly changed a lot since we exited in 2019, but now I get to talk to sellers and I get to sit. It's like when you're like a therapist, you get to sit on the outside. You're not like inside someone's problem, so you get to have a different
mhm,
perspective. And the space has changed a lot. I still personally believe that though it's become more competitive, I think that if you're the guts of the business are still the same. So if you're doing it right, if you're really selling a good product that is that can add value, and that is a quality product, which is so important to Amazon, I think you
mhm,
can gain a lot of success in the space. There is a lot more competition, so that means that you need to use tools, use resources, think of your business in a very business-like way, right? I think that
mhm,
it's really hard for people if they're doing Amazon as a side gig, they're doing it on the side. Um,
mhm,
it, it's easy to start off that way, but at some point you've got to make a decision to see, I want to see this through and I want to see, where I can take this, as opposed to I'm just gonna kind of do this on the side and see what happens. Um,
mhm,
so there's a lot more out there than when I was selling on Amazon. There are a lot more tools out there, so you don't have to actually worry about creating something for yourself. You can use what's already in the market, and you can,
mhm,
help grow your business that way. Um, In terms of SellerMobile, really we're leaning into how to make this problem that sellers have when it comes to their inventory planning, when it comes to cash flow, when it comes to making sure that they are able to scale, make it as simple and as efficient as possible. So we love hearing from our users, and they'll tell us. For example, that deviation alert I talked about, that wasn't even from my head. That was one of our sellers that said, wouldn't it be nice if you just send me an email telling me when my my actuals were not the same as my deviations? And I said, it would be nice. Yes. And so I asked a few other sellers, and they're like, yeah, that would be nice. No one does that. And so we said, all right, we'll build it out. And so we really rely on our users to tell us, this is how we're using it, this is what we want, can you build this for us? And if we'll add it to our pipeline. And so we're constantly growing and changing and updating the way that we run SellerMobile.
That's cool. Very great. Cool.
So last but not least, the offer. So anyone that watches this video can use BidX 20 to get 20% off for 6 months on their subscription. Yeah, just let us know if you have any questions, reach out to the team, and we'd be happy to help.
Very cool. Thank you for that. I think that's an offer everyone should consider. Yeah, as well, thank you for your time, Hiba. It was very nice to talk to you and get some insights about inventory planning and SellerMobile in general. As you said, if anyone wants to try it out, there's a 14 days trial. They can do the onboarding and see if the tool fit for them. As I said, thank you for your time, and see you soon. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.